$1 billion and 10 years later, Brigadier General Katherine Johnson was called upon to answer questions on how the United States Air Force's Expeditionary Combat Support Systems project, also known as ECSS, spun so far out of control. Hello, my name is Jason Carlson from Team 6 Investigative Reporting. Today I'm joined by a team of top-notch investigators to highlight some of the factors that contributed to the failure of the ECSS project. Today's report will focus on the key failures which inhibited effective communication for a project that spanned 10 years and was planned to replace 240 legacy systems, thus producing massive time and cost savings for logistic support. Instead, the Air Force had to make the decision to scrap the project, stating that the contractor CSC was simply not up to the task. With me today are DJ Mays, Jason Adams, and Chris Fuller. Together, we'll be analyzing the planning, management and execution, and the controlling and monitoring of the project communications management failures related to the Air Force's Expeditionary Combat System Support Project. With us now is DJ, who will bring to light the communication planning concerns that occurred during the project.
Thank you, Jason. One of the most important areas of project management is the planning process. If you get it right, it will set you up for smooth sailing. Get it wrong, and it will be a long and bumpy road to failure. The ECSS project looks to have been doomed from the start. At the very least, the odds were stacked against them. The project was tasked with building a backbone software and hardware architecture to align 200 plus systems into a single source, thus reducing redundancy and increasing oversight into the sprawling United States Air Force's logistical systems. And in order to accomplish this task, the Air Force invited vendors to bid for the chance to oversee and implement their solutions. However, they were soliciting vendors before they even really knew the actual requirements of the project. According to Robert Schaffner, the Air Force's Program Executive Officer for Business and Enterprise Systems, the program requirements were still a work in progress while they hired the vendor Computer Sciences Corp. Of Falls Church, Virginia. During the remainder of the requirements gathering phase, CSC actually ended up developing some of the requirements for how the system should operate. Another key factor of the project's failure was the unwillingness to adapt operating processes to match the capability of the software. The project manager should have identified all stakeholders and any challenges in transitioning the operations onto a new software platform prior to trying to implement this solution. Also, the government structure of the project did not align with the organizational hierarchy of the military. This left the governance board with little power to accomplish what was required to change practices within the organization. With the key stakeholder buy-in prior to the project, the proper governance in place, the project manager would have been able to take care of issues up front and would not have had a problem down the road.
Thanks, DJ, for your in-depth considerations for communication planning concerns. Up next, Jason Adams will illustrate failures in project management and execution.
Throughout the life cycle of the project, the Air Force maintained the military's legendary can-do attitude. Unfortunately, this likely led to a degree of green shifting for the project. And green shifting refers to the suppression of bad news in project status reports or understating the severity of issues that arise. This problem of green shifting can be even more prominent in DoD, military, or government projects because lower-ranked members of the project team, which often actually provide the technical expertise on the project, can find themselves in a situation unconducive to open and honest communication regarding project updates. They may feel pressured to report on successes or progress while ignoring a host of problems until it's too late. In the Air Force's case, the ECSS project reached Release 1 Pilot A in April 2010, where it was expected to test approximately 120 interfaces to be implemented with the first phase release. However, only 2 were actually ready for testing. This same report noted that many requirements for the project were written at too high level and did not specifically address the performance requirements of ECSS. Bearing in mind this report is conducted 6 years after the project was initiated, this just demonstrates the enormous chasm in communication between the various project stakeholders. Most notably, the gap between the Air Force and Computer Sciences Corp. The Air Force failed to sufficiently communicate their requirements, leaving it to CSC to shape the commercial off-the-shelf software to the Air Force's vague needs.
Thanks, Jason, for your outstanding observations. Finally, Chris Fuller will go in depth on how failures in regards to project communication controlling and monitoring brought this project to its knees.
In addition to planning and execution, we identified several issues in the monitoring and controlling process group. This group is defined by the project management body of knowledge as those processes required to track, review, and regulate the progress and performance of the project, identify any areas in which changes to the plan are required, and initiate the corresponding changes. Now, these processes require clear, consistent communication to be successful. In our review, we identified problems in 4 key aspects of this process group. First, there was insufficient monitoring and reporting of deficiencies in the quality metrics. Successful project management requires regular reviews of defined quality metrics for the project and timely reporting of any areas that are not meeting the quality requirements. Ignoring or failing to identify quality issues hurts the quality of the project's end result, increasing the likelihood of failure. The second problem we identified was a failure to communicate problems up the chain of command. Interviews with several team members indicated that there was a pervasive atmosphere that discouraged team members from voicing concerns, and as a result, no one was willing to be the first one to step up and say that there was a problem. Avoiding bad news only exacerbates the problem because it doesn't get reported early enough to intervene without major negative impacts on the project constraints. The third problem was a failure to follow proper change request and approval procedures. When issues are identified that require a deviation from the current plan, there is an established process for getting it approved via the proper channels. Failing to follow proper change review procedures is a leading cause of scope creep, budget overruns, and other common factors of project failures. The fourth problem we identified in this process group was a failure to update and maintain project documents throughout the project lifecycle. When changes occur, any affected project documents need to be updated accordingly. Otherwise, there will be no record of the change, and the project will proceed using inaccurate documentation, which can lead to inefficiency, reworking, and numerous other complications. Back to you, Jason.
Outstanding. Thank you, Chris, for your detailed report, and thanks again to DJ and Jason. As you can see, failures in the project communication management process resulted in critical failures such as poor communication of project requirements, lack of accurate and timely communication, as well as insufficient monitoring and reporting. With ineffective project communication management remaining to be a considerable factor in the failure of the ECSS project, the Air Force aims to continue modernization efforts in the future, but in much smaller pieces. Thanks from all of us at Team 6 for joining us for a special report.